Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Napoleon. This movie is directed by Ridley Scott, who previously directed Alien, Blade Runner, and Gladiator, and the movie stars Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby. The plot of this movie is Joaquin Phoenix plays Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most famous generals in the entire world, who would later become the Emperor of France. This movie goes over the militaristic career of him from 1788 to 1815. Now, going into this movie, I thought, okay, we're getting a Napoleon movie. So we're finally going to get a biopic of one of the most famous generals in the entire world. And we're going to get some insight into who the man is that's not in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We're going to get to see how he lived at home with his relationships and his home life. But also, we're going to get to see the kind of man that was this famous and brilliant general on the battlefield. I thought it was going to be 75% action and war, and then the other 25% being his home life and his relationship with his wife. Well, having seen the movie, I can honestly say that we did get that, but it was kind of the opposite. When I found out that we were making a Napoleon movie, I had to go see this. One, because of curiosity, but the other because of excitement. Ridley Scott knows how to direct fight scenes, action sequences, and war. He knows how to do battles. If you've seen Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven, Exodus, Gods and Kings, and The Duel, you know what I'm talking about. You throw in Joaquin Phoenix, a guy who's been on a real tear lately, but was also going to get to work with Ridley Scott since Gladiator. This was going to be intriguing. So I saw the movie. And I will say the two best things this movie had going for it was the cinematography, done by Darius Wolski, but also the music, done by Martin Phipps. The acting was fine. You believed it was the 16th century France. You believed that these characters fought and died for their country, and they wanted what they felt they were entitled to. Joaquin Phoenix, though he was good, he played this very kind of quiet man who, was very determined, almost greedy. He wanted what he felt he was entitled to. He wanted things, his way. But when you're surrounded by all these actors and actresses that use French accents, he didn't do that. So that was a little off-putting. His passion and his love for France, it was there. You could see it. But because he spoke like Joaquin Phoenix, it took you out of it a little bit. Also, Napoleon is depicted in movies and other media and history as, being a really short man. And though he did appear shorter than the rest in this movie, the things that we attribute to Napoleon, Napoleon complex, his being short, whatnot, they don't really make that apparent in this movie. Yes, there are a couple scenes where he needs assistance getting on his horse, and he uses a box to make himself taller to examine this mummy that they discover. But they don't really paint him as a short person. He has some troubles at home with his wife, so they do attribute that to, him being the way that he is, and why he wants more, and how he's frustrated, and, things can never be his way the way he wants it. But they don't really make that a point in the movie. It's just things that happen. It's just habits that, the man has, but they don't really make it important. They don't make it, noteworthy. Vanessa Kirby, as Josephine, his wife, she was also fine. She just came off of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. She's a good actress. But here, with her short black hair, her being this very promiscuous wife of Napoleon, she really didn't bring a lot to the role. Now, this movie focuses majorly on their home life, their love life, their relationship, their marriage. And you have Napoleon as like this, almost like this kid that, wants this woman, writes her all these letters, and she really doesn't, reciprocate the feelings. And when she does, yeah, it's believable in the moment, but you feel like their marriage is a little one-sided. So this movie was majorly about their relationship. And when you hear that they're making a Napoleon movie, you don't think about home life. Because the movie focused on them so much. You know, their troubles, their few happy moments, you know, his love for her. It drags the movie. The runtime feels a lot longer because you have two characters that aren't really incredibly embraced with one another. They're not, you know, eager to see each other. And so, because the love isn't there, the audience doesn't really feel any love or compassion or really any wanting to see these characters on screen. You wanted to see a Napoleon movie for the battles, for the action, for the war. And we do get that. Granted, we get it in about three battles. And of the 61 battles they say Napoleon was a part of in the movie, 3 is too few. Aside from the battles, the best thing about this movie is the lighting. This movie pulled a Barry Lyndon and has all of the scenes done with natural lighting. Scenes where they're sitting in a house or in a building or in a room. The only lighting is by candlelight or sunlight through an open window or doors. There were a couple scenes on the battlefield involving snowy weather that had me going, I don't know how much, you know, real that is. It looked kind of CGI, but the battles were incredible. And the music by Martin Phipps definitely fit those scenes. There's a moment where there is a battle on top of this ice. And as you can imagine, just like in King Arthur, I've always been a sucker for battles on ice because you know it's bound to happen. And the battles are brutal. I will say, this movie is unflinching when it comes to realism with violence and gore. Ridley Scott, you know, not only does he like his battles and his warfare, but he also likes his violence. And it's not, you know, insane. It's not over the top. He does it to make it feel realistic. And the first 20 minutes of this movie, to me, had a different tone, where you had the beheading of a certain pivotal figure. Then you have a scene where this guy who's cornered and outnumbered, you know, commits suicide, but fails. The first 20 minutes of this movie set the tone. Like, okay, this movie's going to be realistic, and it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to feel like you're actually there. But then the movie drags on, and it kind of takes you out of it. Whenever a battle or war comes up, then you're like, ooh, all right. And then you sit up again, and you pay attention. So the battles were really well done. The music was great. Napoleon and his strategy was also very, very, very impressive. But also the violence of war is also depicted. It just shows you, you know, the cost of war. At the end of the movie, it shows you in words and numbers the amount of losses during each battle. Now, whether that's people that were lost on the French side or the other side, that was hard to determine. But it's there, and it just shows you how many people died during this span of Napoleon's time. Also, the passing of time was a little confusing, because aside from a timestamp of the year on screen, you really didn't know how much time went by. Granted, a couple side characters were to get older, but Napoleon seemed to never really change, neither did Josephine, so it was kind of hard to tell how much time had gone by. So, because this movie had, you know, good acting for what it was, but the movie was just dragged out way too long because of the at-home love story and focus on the relationship between Napoleon and Josephine, and not enough battles. This movie was good and well done, but it's one of those films that makes you kind of wonder, why was this made? And to think that this runtime is like 2.5 hours, and the original director's cut is like 4 hours and 15 minutes, it makes you wonder what was cut out. Hopefully we get that, and hopefully majority of stuff cut out were the battles. So, because the music was good, the violence was raw and, you know, realistic, but because the story itself wasn't as engaging as you want it to be, I'm going to give Napoleon a C. Until next time, guys.